And Mr. Langone, it's a pleasure to be with you. Ken, it's a pleasure to be with you, and welcome to Kansas City.
Well, a little bit of my connect with this day. My assistant came into my office and said, "You got a call. They'd like you to speak at something to do with the Truman Library." And I said, "What?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Holy smokes." I said, "We'll do it." I didn't know any more than that, because I happen to believe out of the 46 presidents we've had, is that how many we've had? 47?
46.
46.
Yeah.
Is that better? Okay. Of the 46 presidents we had, I have far and away, Harry Truman was the best president we ever had. Okay? Now, that should even have more meaning because I'm a very conservative Republican. So why? He was a man of enormous courage, conviction, candor, told it like it was, never expected he'd be where he ended up, and never got caught up and swept away by the trappings of the office. He was a man of the people, and in his life, he made more tough decisions in 7 short years than anybody else I can think of. And I'm sure you've all read the book, but if you haven't, read David McCullough's book, Truman. I read everything about Truman, and this is the best, and everything was good about him. So all I can tell you, by the way, you got a photographer around. I got to have a picture of you and me here, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
When you come to my office in New York, you'll see there's pictures there of all the momentous events in my life, and this will be one of them, okay?
Wow.
Okay?
You got it.
So, I thank you for this great honor. I've been bragging ever since we got the call. So, and I'm not going to stop either, okay? Go ahead.
Go ahead. I will say that Ken and I talked on the phone last week briefly, and he got on the phone and said, I've got some ground rules for you. Ask me anything you want about any subject you want. So there we go.
Okay? I have a thought that the people from Kansas City are nice, so I'm not worrying. By the way, is there anybody left in Kansas City besides all the, my God, the turnout is unbelievable. Thank you so much. And support the library. Please support the library.
Thank you very much. Let's start with that biography that Wendy was talking about. You come from Long Island.
Yep.
Your dad was a plumber.
Union plumber. They voted for Harry Truman. My mother worked in a school cafeteria. I don't know how she voted. And I was raised in a loving family, very Italian. Not much in the way of material things, but limitless with unconditional love and admiration for everything American. And my parents believed that all of us had within our means the ability to be whatever we wanted to be if we wanted to be it bad enough. And Mom and Dad used to tell me 2 things: work hard and get an education. And they were right. They really were right. And if there's anything I lament today, it's that we'll never lose it because we're a great country, but I think we ought to reemphasize the importance of personal initiative, of sticking to it, and taking chances, and sticking your neck out.
Tell that story about the cardboard recycling.
We had...
You'll notice when you read Ken's book that he was not unemployed for 15 seconds from about the age of 10.
Well, look, I always like to have a buck in my pocket, and I was willing to work for it, okay? And understand, I came from a loving family, plenty of food, warm house, no air conditioning. So in the summertime, we slept in our skivvies because there was no air conditioning in the house, my brother and I. Anyway, the story that Dave wants me to tell. we had one Jewish family in this little town. It was a farming town. They grew potatoes all around it. His name was Lenny Altman. And I worked in the butcher shop next door to the liquor store. And Lenny came to me one day and said to me, he was probably 25 or 30 then. It was his family owned the liquor store. And he said to me, he'd like me, would I be willing to take out, the liquor came in cardboard boxes. Would I every Tuesday and Thursday bring the boxes from the back of his store out? There was an old electrical tower, power tower. And they used to put the garbage at the base, and the next day the garbage man picked it up, Wednesday and Friday. And he said to me, would I like to do it? He'll give me 50 cents a night. And I said, you got a deal. Well, I found out, I met one of the garbage guys, and he told me that they used to break up the boxes. This is right after World War II, 48, 49, in there. They used to break up the boxes and sell them. I was watching them break the boxes up. What are you doing now? Oh, these are worth a lot of money. So I went to Lenny, and entrepreneur that I am, and I said, Lenny, I got an idea. I said, if you'll let me store, I'll break the boxes up, but instead of bringing them down to the tower, if you'll let me put them in a pile and tie them with twine, every month or so I'll get somebody to come and pick it up, and you haven't got to pay me anymore. I'll take my chances that I'll get at least $1 a week more, or more than $1 a week. And he said, okay. So we made the deal, and it worked out good for him because he didn't pay me anything, and it worked out good for me because it was more than $1 a week. And fast forward, I'm going to college, and I walked past the liquor store one day. The high school was on one side of the railroad tracks, and our home was on the other. And he said to me, I hear you're going to college. I said, yes, come on in. So he took me inside, and we went to the back. He had a little desk in back of the counter where he did all of his bookkeeping. And he reaches in the drawer, he pulls out the center drawer, and there's an envelope. I could cry. He put $1 a week in the envelope. And he said to me, I hear you're going to college. I hope this helps. If that's not kindness, I don't know what is. And I'll never forget it. Because, again, there was, by the way, there's two themes of my book, America and the fact that I'm not self-made. And Lenny was one of those people who, along my life's journey, was there for me. And anyway, that's a story about the cardboard boxes.
And it's a great story. So you got to Bucknell, and you were that guy who was always selling something around the campus, including stationery.
Necktie, stationery. I had an old refrigerator. I put beer in. They bought beer from me on credit. On credit. Nobody had any money.
On credit.
So go ahead.
Wendy also referred to the story about you almost didn't finish Bucknell because you were...
I almost didn't start.
Almost didn't start.
Well, what happened was, a little background. The night I graduated from, I was not a good high school student. In fact, I was terrible. And thank God we have a system in New York called the Regents, which was made for me because whatever you got on your Regents grade, no matter how bad you did all year, if you passed the Regents grade, you passed. And that was my kind of bet, all or nothing. And so I did pretty good on the Regents. And so now Mom knew all of the people because she worked in the school cafeteria. And the night of my graduation, my principal came up to me and said to her, not me, Mrs. Langone, Angie, I called her Angie. He said, Angie, you and John work so very hard for the little bit you have. I'd be wrong if I didn't tell you Ken is not college material and he'll be out by Christmas. And so we had a custom that after high school graduation, we'd all drive to Montauk Point, graduation night. And the next morning when I came back, Mom was sitting in the sofa in tears, and I said, who died? Because, Italians cry all the time when somebody dies. They wear black for a year and they cry, okay? Nobody died. I said, what are you crying for? She said, well, Mr. Ross said, you're going to flunk out of college before Christmas. I said, don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. Well, it almost did happen. About 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, in 1953, my freshman year, I took a course in economics, and we had breakout classes Tuesday and Thursday, and on Saturday we had classes on Saturday morning. They had the big, all of the sections met together in this big auditorium, and the big poobah, the head of the department, gave that lecture. He used to once in a while throw an impromptu test at you. Well, he'd given us a test a week before that. Remember the old blue textbooks you got, test books you got. So after going through the class, and at the end of the class, he said, is there a Mr. Langone in here? And I raised my hand, and I said, oh my God. He said, I want to see you after class in my office. I said, oh, Jesus. So I go to his office, and he throws my exam book on the table, on the desk. That's the worst English I have ever read in my life. You have no idea how I struggled to understand what the hell you were talking about. But I'm glad I did, because you really understand the subject. The topic was explain the logic of supply and demand in economics, basic thing in economics. He said, you really understand this. And he said, tell me how you doing in all your other classes. I said, about the same as I'm doing here. What's that? I said, I'm flunking. And he said to me, well, you're going to be out of here in January. We used to have the semester. It was cruel. You'd go home for Christmas, then you come back for 2 weeks and you had your finals. Now they do the end of the semester before Christmas. And he said to me, is that what you want? And I said, no, I don't want it. He said, well, I'll make a deal with you. He said, I'm going to get to all your other professors, and I'm going to see if we can put you out of this nosedive. But you got to do your part. Do I have your word? And I said, yes, you do. And he went to all my other professors, and we pulled it out.
Pulled it out.
I mean, and there's again somebody else mattering, seeing more in myself than I saw, more in me than I saw in myself. And so I'm not being modest when I say that you could give me Yankee Stadium and it wouldn't be big enough to hold all the people that helped me along my life's journey, starting with my bride over here. She's with me today. This is so special for us. She even came, all right, Elaine? All right.
I was going to say that as good as that story is, you were about 18 years old then.
I just turned 18.
Yeah, well, a much smarter thing you did at 18, besides passing college or staying in, was meeting Elaine.
Well, that was in the following June. This was in November of '53, and I met Elaine in June of '54 on a Monday night. And the book tells you all about. I can remember the clothes she had on, but I mean, I was really thunderstruck. I said, "Oh my God, I couldn't." Here we are, 64 years later, and we're still together. She has guts and courage, believe me.
Smart deal. So I'd love to go story by story, but we're limited a little on time.
Good.
You, although by the time we go much longer, everyone's going to want to stay all afternoon. Was Wall Street the kind of place that was easy for an Italian kid from?
No, it was not easy at all. God bless. Elaine's dad was in Wall Street, and he got me some interviews, and I started out working for an insurance company, and I went to NYU at night to get my MBA, and that's why NYU is as precious to me as Bucknell University was. And I was called back into the Army in September of '61 when Khrushchev built a wall around Berlin. They needed 100,000 warriors, of which I was one of them, to go to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And the market had the biggest crash, May of '62, the market had its biggest crash since '29. And I made my mind up. I was in the investment department of the insurance company, and I was given a leave of absence because I had to go in the military. And I made my mind up going to Wall Street. And one of the men that my father-in-law introduced me to was a man by the name of Maurice Hart. And he was with a firm called New York Hanseatic. And I went to see him, and he said, I got nothing here for you. He said, but I'll let you give a few calls. He said, come back and let me know how you're making out. So I went to all these different firms, Lee Higginson, Whitewell, Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch. They were all over. And after a while, I went back and I said, Mr. Hart, I can't get a nibble. He said, well, let me give you the lay of the land, young man. He said, we have WASP firms for the WASP kids. We have Jewish firms for the Jewish kids. The Irish kids we put on the floor of the exchange as clerks, and the Italian kids we put in the black office as bookkeepers. And he said, you're better than that. He said, you go find yourself a place where you'll take a chance on your future. And that's what I did. And I finally reached a point. I met a man by the name of Jack Cullen at R.W. Pressbridge. And Jack, we hit it off. And he said, it was 62 times. He said, I can't afford to pay you. He said, we're cutting back. And I said, okay, thank you anyway. So I got in the elevator, and we had our oldest son was a little more than a year old, and Elaine was pregnant with our second son, who was going to be born in September. And so I got in the elevator, and I went downstairs, and I said, wait a minute, he likes me, I like him. So I go back upstairs, and I said to the receptionist, can I see Mr. Cullen again? She said, sure. So he comes out, did you forget something? I said, no. I said, what do you pay a secretary? He said, we pay him $150 a week. I said, pay me $150 a week. He said, well, you can't live on it. I said, I'll figure out how to live on it. I said, that's my problem, that's yours. I'd had a job at NYU teaching at night. And so a combination of what little bit of income I got from that, plus what I made at Pressbridge, that's where I started. I don't mean to sound boastful, but that was August of '62. In January of '66, that's about 3.5 years later, I was made a partner in the firm, because one of the deals I made when I went to work for $150 a week was the entrepreneur that I am, but you've got to let me call on every customer that you're not doing business with. And that was great because it was costing them nothing. And boy, I went to work like, God bless Elaine, she raised the kids, and I would leave on Sunday and come home on Saturday and go all over America, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, wherever there was money and, like banks and stuff. And there was a custom in Wall Street that every year they made partners on the first of the year. And they ran what they called tombstones. We were pleased to announce that so-and-so and so-and-so and so have been made partners of our firm. And so there was a tombstone in January of '66 announcing that I'd been made a partner of this firm. And this high school principal that said I'd be home by Christmas had retired to Maine. This is a wonderful story. And he apparently read the Wall Street Journal. He had cut out the tombstone and sent it to me, and across it wrote how wrong I was.
Oh.
Anyway,
So it seems to me.
this is all about America. Understand something. We're incidental. This great country is the reason that kids like me are allowed to have chances like this.
One definition, I'd say, of a potential success as an entrepreneur is when the stock market has a historic crash and everybody's jumping out of windows, you say, I want to go to work on Wall Street.
Absolutely. No, they were all leaving. Hell, you had to beat your way in because, any way they could get out, they were getting, but what do they say? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. It's that simple. But I viewed it as a singular opportunity because, first of all, I believed in the history of this country, and I also believed in the future of the country, and I knew that's where the action was. And of course, you need a lot of luck, and you need a supportive family. And I had it, Elaine and her family, and my parents. So I always knew I had a fallback position, and that's powerful.
So you heard about a businessman in some sort of data processing business down in Dallas.
In Dallas.
And you called him up for a meeting.
No, I didn't call him up. The Louisiana congressional delegation used to have a Mardi Gras ball the Saturday night before Lent started in Washington. And Elaine and I got invited as a guest to go to this ball. This was in February 1968. And we went down, and it was a great evening, a lot of fun, a lot of booze, a lot of laughing, and that was a great time. And the fellow that was at my table, a man by the name of Jack Haidt, H-I-G-H-T, he had co-founded EDS Washington. EDS, don't forget, this is when Lyndon Johnson had passed Medicare and Medicaid. There was only one problem: they had no way to manage it. So they brought the Blue Shield and Blue Cross plans in, and they in turn had no way to manage the enormity of the data processing challenge. And that's where Perot came in. So Jack was telling me they were getting ready to go public. And so I said, gee, is there a chance I can get a meeting? And he said, well, let me see what I can do. And following Monday, I called him. He was in Washington. Well, you got an appointment at 11:30. It's 11:30. You got 30 minutes. He's punctual. Be there at 11:30 and leave at 12 o'clock. And he said, don't swear. Now that created its own challenge by itself, okay? So we show up, and exactly at 11:30, we get in. I said, man, this guy was serious about punctual. And his desk was in a corner. And Ross is he's a diminutive guy. He's about 5'5", 5'6". And you got these jug ears like Dumbo. And by the way I'm describing him now, that's the way we talk to each other. We have a great sense of humor for each other and love for each other. And here he is, and I see these pair of eyes like Kilroy. Remember Kilroy? I see the eyes, and he comes up. Hi, fellas. Ross Perot. Nice to meet you. Come on over here. Let's sit and talk a little bit. So we go over. The tragic part of the story is I brought two young men with me. And they were both burned to death in this tragic Hilton Inn fire in New York.
Oh, God.
Up in Westchester County.
Yeah.
By the way, a little irony. Last night, we were with the brother-in-law of one of those men, and they've asked me if I would sign some books to this man's children. He passed away, and life has got its own. It's
Wow.
amazing how things like. So anyway, so we sit there, and Perot talks for 29 and a half minutes. Goldman said this, Merrill said that, Whitewell said that, and I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, well, there goes my 30 minutes, okay? So he, well, what do you think of what I said? And I said, well, Mr. Perot, Jack told me I had 30 minutes, and I think I got enough time to tell you how nice it was for you to see me, and maybe you can see me another time. What do you mean? What do you mean? I said, well, I got 30 minutes, and my 30 minutes are up. No, go ahead. What do you think of what I said? I'm going to clean it up. And I says, well, that's the biggest bunch of horse feathers I ever heard in my life. I didn't use the word feathers. You can fill in the blank, okay? And then he went back, and we talked for 13 hours. We talked until 1 o'clock in the morning, and he was driving me all around Dallas looking for a drugstore, because I was going back on the 3 o'clock in the afternoon plane where I could get some toiletries and maybe a T-shirt. And he said to me, I think I want to wait a little while. I said, well, that's fine. I want to get to know you better. And we got to know each other better. And we became, and we are two of the closest friends that to this day. It was 50 years ago last September that I took EDS public. And by the way, EDS, we all need a break in life. In my business career, that was my big break. That put me on the map because everybody wanted his business.
How many IPOs had you done at that point?
I'll tell you that part too. So we do the deal. He wants to know what do I think it's worth. I don't know what the hell it's worth. And I said, 100 times earnings, which was a staggering number. But it was a round number, and it sounded good. And he went for it. And he called me up after he made the decision to give us the business. He'd gotten a call from a friend of his who said he would do it at 100 times earnings. And so he called me and said, how about if you guys do it together? I said, Ross, at 100 times earnings, let me give you an analogy. Get in a car and go 200 miles an hour in a car. I have the steering wheel and you have the brakes. Now let's decide how long we're going to make it before we have a head-on collision and we're both dead. I said, if you want to give him the business, I'll be around, give it to him. No, you were first. So now the night New York State will tax you to death on everything. New York State had a stock transfer tax. When you sell stock, you had to pay tax. The way we used to get around it in underwritings, we'd drive through the tunnel in New Jersey, use the back of the driver's back to sign all the papers, have the driver be the witness, and turn around and drive back into the city because the transaction took place in Jersey. Entrepreneurship, okay? Entrepreneurship. You do what you got to do. And so we're driving through Elaine had to go home. Our kids were going to school the next day. And Elaine had to go home. We had dinner with Margot and Ross and Elaine and I. And so Margot, Ross, and I are driving through the tunnel, going to Jersey in a limousine. And Perot he and Margot are looking forward, and I'm in the seat in the back looking backwards. Well, I guess this is when you're going to tell me I'm not getting 100 times earnings. I said, that's right. See, Margot, they're all alike up here. Damn it, you can't trust them. I'm telling you right now, they put their hand out, it means nothing. Now in Texas, we put our hand out, you got a deal. I said, wait a minute, don't get upset. Damn right I'm upset. You tell me I'm getting 100 times earnings. I said, okay, you got 100 times earnings. Now, I had winked to Margot when this was going on, and she caught it. I said, Ross, 100 times earnings. Damn right it matters to me. I said, you got it. So Margot says, well, Ken, what were you going to do with that? And I said, well, I was going to do it at 115 times earnings, but if he only wants 100 times earnings. We did it at 115 times earnings, by the way. Promise less and deliver more, always.
Promise less, deliver more. That's a great story. So now you're Ross Perot's banker.
Yep.
Which is coming up in the world from $150 a week.
Oh, a whole lot. 5 years, don't forget.
5 years.
6 years.
6 years?
6 years.
Amazing. Give us a quick history of Home Depot. How'd you get from there to there?
Well, I'm a deal junkie.
You're a deal junkie.
I'm always looking for a deal. I mean, it's like Mr. Newman and I were talking about my friend Tommy Teague and the truck lead. By the way, he hadn't seen Tommy in years, and my wife said, why don't you call Tommy up? So I'm sitting here right now, and I call my partner in the truck leasing business up, and Mr. Nerman. Mr. Nerman and Tommy, my partner, he took advantage of Tommy when he bought used trucks from Tommy years ago. Anyway, so I'm always interested in doing something. And I met a guy out in California by the name of Bernie Marcus. And I took an instant like to him. And he took a like to me. And he had a company called Handy Dan Home Improvements. I think there was some stores in Kansas City, if my memory's right.
I think so.
And it was 81% owned by a company and 19% owned by the public. And I got so enamored that I started buying all the stock in the hands of the public, 19%. I got all the stock except there was a 50,000 share block that I didn't get. And it was owned by a bunch of redemptorist priests based in Brooklyn. And Father Ray McCarthy, I call up, and heavy Irish brogue he's got. And I said, you own that stock and I'd like to buy it from you. And he says, your name? He said, Italian? I said, yes, sir. Catholic? Yes, sir. He's under the pain of hell. Tell me what I should do. I said, keep your stock. I ain't messing with God, I'll tell you right now. He wins every time. So we ended up buying a stock, and the guy that ran the company that owned the 81% was a real bad guy. I shouldn't say anything because he's dead, but he's like Spitzer. These two guys, they'd have hit it off real well. So anyway, Bernie persuades me to sell him the stock back. Now before that, we'd opened a store in Houston, and after I bought all the stock, I'd go to all the openings. And we were opening a store in Houston, and I was blown away by this store, 40,000 square foot. And I was really excited, and Bernie grabbed me and said, "Don't get excited. Somebody's going to figure a way out to revolutionize this industry, and it's going to be curtains." I said, "What are you talking about?" "No, I can't tell you. It's so powerful." Long story short, I sold my stock back. I told Bernie if I sell him the stock back, he's going to get fired. 3 months later, he got fired. He assured me he'd never get fired. He got fired, and he called me up. Wife, 3 kids, no money, no health insurance, nothing. "How soon can you get to New York?" And he said, "Well, about tonight." It was Saturday afternoon. I said, "Fine." So the next morning, I met him at Peacock Alley, and I asked him what he got fired for. It was a labor law violation. I said, "You know, a labor lawyer, bring a labor lawyer with you so I can understand." So we met at Peacock Alley at the Waldorf Astoria on a Sunday morning at 9:30. And I said to the labor lawyer, would sit down, and Jerry Glassman, I never met him before, nice man. I said, "Is he going to jail?" And Bernie said, Jail, what are you talking about?" I said, "Well, you got fired, and you did something with the law." So he said, Glassman said, no. He said, "They're going to just certify the union, and that's it." And I said, "Bernie said, what do you ask about jail for?" I said, "Well, you can't run a company from jail." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Remember you told me in Houston there was this thing out there that somebody did it?" I said, "Let's do it." I didn't know what the hell it was. I said, "Let's do it." In fact, what I said to him was, pardon me, I said, "You just got hit in the ass with a golden horseshoe and you don't even know it." And the rest is history. That's how it happened. I tell you one thing, if you can't go to work and have fun, don't go to work, okay? Because I really love my work, and I have a great time.
You used to push the carts into Home Depot.
Still do.
Still do.
Still do.
I love that lesson.
Well, Bernie told me this, that we wanted to connect with the kids. By the way, the whole genius of Home Depot are the kids that all of you meet. And by the way, you promised me, one thing you said to me, they will never shop any place but Home Depot if I come out here.
Correct, yes.
So I've now got,
I think
300 people in this room, all right? But our genius are those kids. Now, who's a kid? Anybody? I'm going to be 84. Anybody under 84 is a kid. So those people in the store are the genius of Home Depot. They're our secret sauce. They're our A-bomb. They're everything. That's why we are what we are. And so Bernie said to me one day, you know, we always want to make sure we connect with the kids. And Bernie and I were pretty good peddlers. So we push carts in. Whenever we go to a store, we push carts in, and we pray to God that the kids in the store know who we are. And they say, well, gee, if it's not too much for them to push carts in, I can push carts in. And that's entry level at Home Depot. Kids starting a lot. Now, let me digress for a moment. We have 3,000 people in Home Depot today, 3,000, that started in the lot. That's entry level. They're multimillionaires. And they're still working for the company. That's capitalism. Okay, that's the genius of this great country. That's it. We have a woman, African American. She started with us as a part-time cashier, Anna Marie Campbell. She runs all 1,700 United States stores. She started out as a cashier. That's capitalism, okay? That's initiative, that's hard work. The opportunities are there. We've got to make sure everybody has a shot at them. We've got to make sure that we do everything we can to get kids ready to take a chance. And of course, that's my passion with public education, being in such deplorable shape. These poor kids aren't going to be given a chance. We've got to do something for them.
I want to talk a minute about your philanthropic career. So from night school in the MBA program at NYU, I believe the medical school and hospital of NYU is now called NYU Langone,
Yes, sir.
and has gone from being, I don't mean to disparage, but a pretty average
We were
hospital,
on death's door. I mean,
death's
20 years
door,
ago.
to being one of the greatest hospitals in the world and medical school.
Yes, sir.
Is it the same skill set to be a great entrepreneur and a great philanthropist?
Yep. Well, you're talking about philanthropy. Let me throw a book. My bride, her big things right now are the Boys Club in New York and the Animal Medical Center. You'd be amazed the number of people in New York City, big New York City, millions and millions of people. The number of people that live in New York City that their only connection with something living is their pet. They're alone. And a lot of them can't afford it. Well, Elaine's on the board of the Animal Medical Center, and that's one of her passions. And the other is the Boys Club in New York, where we take these kids, these disadvantaged kids, and what they do with them, Elaine and her people there, it's phenomenal.
Two of the great institutions of New York,
Yeah,
definitely.
And anyway, a friend of mine called me up in 1999. Let me back up. Elaine and I have always believed in sharing. I happen to think that there has to be more definition to our lives than that we made a lot of money. I mean, that's the net of it all. Why bother? So we've always embraced philanthropy. We've always felt, and I think it's more a sense of obligation that for all this great country did for us, I think we have a moral obligation, and we both share this belief, the two of us, that it's our duty to give back. Not just with money, but with effort. What we did with the kids at Home Depot is exactly what we did at NYU Medical Center, starting 20 years ago. The esprit de corps in the place, the sense of mission, the pride and the satisfaction that comes with success turn this place on. And I'll give you one. We just made a big decision last summer. If you're admitted to NYU Medical School, which is part of NYU Langone Health, you come tuition free. Let me give you some idea what that means. We had 9,000 applicants. We have 90 positions this year for freshman class. We have 9,000 applicants. The average GPA was 3.93. And the MCATs, that's the equivalent of the SAT you take for high school, for college, or the law LSAT for the law. The MCATs were in the 99th percentile. So we were drawing 6,000 kids to apply. We did it because 10 years from now, not 50, 10 years from now, we're going to have a shortage of primary care physicians, 50,000. We're going to be short 30,000 OBGYN, and we're going to be short 30,000 pediatricians. Forget about being able to afford health care. Ask yourself the question about availability of health care. That's a bigger challenge to me. We'll figure a way out to get people financed to get health care. But if the doctors aren't there to provide the health care, it doesn't matter who pays. So Bob Grossman, our dean, and he's fabulous. He's my partner, and he's a remarkable man. He's dean and CEO. 20 years ago, we were a $2 billion business. Today, we're a $10 billion business. We're flying. I'm proud of it. Elaine's proud of it. The proper name is Elaine A. and Kenneth G. Langone, NYU Medical Center. We shortened it to just Langone. But that's important to the both of us, as well as our other charities. But in the broader sense, you got to give back. Now, I don't tell anybody else what they should do with their money, but Elaine and I feel strongly that we have a strong moral obligation to this great country to share our good fortune. That's it.